Trash belongs with trash, my father declared into the microphone, holding up the old, yellowed passbook my grandfather had quietly slipped into my hands. He didn't stop at mocking it. He tossed the book straight into a bucket filled with melting ice and champagne. While the guests burst into laughter, I didn't cry out. Instead, I thrust my hand into the icy liquid, soaked my wedding dress to rescue those drenched pages, and walked away without turning back. Before I reveal the secret hidden inside those soaked, damaged pages, and how I used it to dismantle my father's counterfeit empire, tell me in the comments, what is the cruelest thing a family member has ever done to you at a celebration? I am reading every single story. 3 days later, I stepped into the First National Bank in downtown Boston. The marble floors and hushed voices inside felt worlds apart from the chaos I had left in Newport. I carried the passbook inside a plastic Ziploc bag. The pages were wrinkled and marked with champagne stains, looking exactly like the garbage my father claimed it was. My name is Alyssa, and at 29, I have mastered the art of being unseen. As a trauma nurse, invisibility is survival. I know how to disappear into the background while doctors shout and patients bleed. I know how to guard secrets, but standing there in my thrifted coat, waiting for the young teller to finish typing, I felt exposed. I need to check the balance on this, I said, sliding the bag across the glossy counter. It was a gift. The teller, barely 20, lifted it delicately with 2 fingers, her nose wrinkling. She entered the account number, likely expecting an error or a zero balance. Then she froze. Her hands hovered over the keyboard. She blinked, leaned closer to the screen, and the color drained from her face. "Ma'am," she murmured, her voice shaking, "please wait here. Do not leave." She didn't trigger a silent alarm, but she might as well have. Within moments, the branch manager and a sharply dressed regional director hurried toward me. They didn't glance at my worn coat. They regarded me as if I were displaced royalty. "Miss Mercer," the director said, guiding me toward a heavy steel door at the back, "please. We have been waiting a very long time for this account to be claimed." They escorted me into a private room that carried the scent of dust and aged paper. As I stepped away to retrieve the file, I sat in a leather chair and closed my eyes. Suddenly, I was no longer in a vault. I was 12 again, kneeling on the hardwood floor of my father's study. Richard lounged in his armchair, swirling scotch in a glass, watching me. He had spilled it deliberately. I knew it, but the rule in our house was simple. Girls clean, boys conquer. Hunter sat on the sofa laughing at a video game, his feet resting on the table I had just polished. "You missed a spot, Alyssa," Richard said quietly. He never needed to shout. He preferred witnesses for his cruelty. He liked watching the light fade from my eyes. It was his stage. When Grandpa Samuel tried to pull me up, Richard's tone snapped like a whip. "Touch that rag, old man, and I'll put you in a state home so fast you won't even have time to pack your pills." That day, I scrubbed until my knuckles split. I scrubbed because I believed my worth existed only in what I could endure. The metallic slam of the vault door pulled me back to the present. I opened my eyes. I was no longer that 12-year-old girl. I was the woman holding the match. The director placed a thick folder in front of me. "Your grandfather didn't just open a savings account, Miss Mercer. In 1982, he created a Totten Trust. He invested early in Apple and Microsoft. Every dividend was reinvested into the portfolio and left untouched for 40 years. He turned the document toward me. The current value of the trust, legally payable to you upon his death, is $12,400,000. The number stared back at me. Black. Final. $12,400,000. I thought about the champagne bucket. I pictured Richard laughing into the microphone, calling it trash. He had held $12 million in his hand and discarded it because his arrogance kept him from looking inside the cover. "Is anyone else listed on the account?" I asked evenly. "No," the director replied. "Only you. It is entirely yours." I ran my fingers over the dried, damaged passbook. It wasn't merely money. It was a weapon. And for the first time in my life, I knew precisely where to aim. When I came home, my husband Luke barely glanced up. He was bent over his laptop at the kitchen island, encircled by towers of printed spreadsheets. The air in our small apartment felt tense, like something fragile was about to shatter. Luke is more than a data analyst. He is an architect of financial secrets. He detects fractures in foundations no one else notices. "It's not an empire, Alyssa," he said, turning the screen toward me. His voice carried no emotion. "It's a Ponzi scheme built on bridge loans and ego." I studied the monitor. I expected evidence of wealth, the millions Richard boasted about at charity galas and family dinners. Instead, I saw red. "He's insolvent," Luke said, pointing to a document. "The mansion in Newport entered foreclosure proceedings 3 weeks ago. The family trust he claims to oversee, empty. He's been shifting the same $50,000 across 6 shell accounts to fake liquidity. And here's the worst part, he's under audit. The IRS sent him a notice of deficiency last month." I stared at the figures. The man who had tossed my grandfather's legacy into a champagne bucket wasn't a titan. He was drowning in debt. He didn't just desire money. He required it to avoid federal prison. My phone rang. It was him. I switched it to speaker. Luke stopped typing. "Alyssa!" Richard's voice filled the kitchen. No apology. No pause. Just the swagger of a man convinced he still ruled the world. "I've been thinking about that shack your grandfather left you. The cottage. What about it?" I asked, steadying my shaking hand against the table while keeping my voice cold. "I'm going to help you out," he said. "I've spoken with my real estate attorney. We can liquidate it quickly. I'll take care of the sale, secure full market value, and reinvest the money into the family company so you actually earn a return. You're a nurse, sweetheart. You don't know anything about property taxes or ongoing upkeep. I'm trying to spare you the stress." He wanted the cottage. It was the only solid, physical reminder Samuel had left me besides the passbook. Its value was roughly $300,000, insignificant to a billionaire, but a lifeline to a drowning fraudster. "I'm not selling, Dad," I said. The line went quiet. Then his facade cracked. "You listen to me," he growled, his voice dropping lower, darker. "That old man wasn't mentally competent when he signed that deed. I have witnesses prepared to testify that you manipulated a senile elder into transferring family property. If you don't sign the transfer papers by Friday, I'll sue you for elder abuse. I will drag you through probate court until you're bankrupt. Do you understand? You are completely out of your depth, Alyssa." He wasn't trying to protect me. He was hunting for liquidity. Any asset he could grab, liquidate, and pour into the black hole of his debt. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "Good. I'll have the paperwork delivered." The call ended with a sharp click. I turned to Luke. He wasn't afraid. He was smiling, a cold, precise smile that mirrored the steady heat rising in my chest. Richard believed he was intimidating a helpless daughter. What he didn't realize was that he had just handed us the blueprint for his own downfall. Desperation clouds judgment, and desperate men slip. I waited 24 hours before calling him back. Silence magnifies anxiety. It allows desperation to ferment. Luke and I didn't spend that day panicking. We prepared. We didn't hire an attorney to defend the cottage. We hired a graphic designer to fabricate a convincing portfolio of investment documents. When I finally dialed Richard's number, I delivered the performance of a lifetime. I didn't channel the composed woman who had walked out of the bank vault. I summoned the frightened 12-year-old who once trembled over spilling scotch. "Dad," I whispered when he answered, letting my voice shake. "I'm sorry I hung up. I didn't know what to say." "You should be sorry," he snapped, though the sharpness had dulled. He was listening. "It's not just the cottage," I continued, injecting the perfect note of naive panic. I went to the bank. The passbook, it wasn't empty. Silence flooded the line. I could almost hear him calculating. "How much?" he asked, greed seeping through the receiver. $12 million. I choked. 12 million. "But, Dad, I don't know what to do." The bank manager mentioned capital gains taxes and federal audits. "I think I'm in trouble. If the IRS finds out about this, they'll take half. I don't know how to hide it." It was flawless bait. I gave him exactly what he believed about me, that I was weak, naive, incapable of handling power. And I offered him exactly what he needed, a massive injection of liquidity to patch his own crimes. "Listen very carefully, Alyssa," he said, his tone transforming instantly from predator to protector. The shift was chilling. "Do not sign anything at the bank. Do not speak to any lawyers. Bring the documents to me. I can shield it under the family trust. We'll classify it as a pre-existing asset. It's complicated, but I can make the tax liability disappear. I'm doing this for you, sweetheart, to protect you. Protect me? He intended to swallow the inheritance whole and use it to seal the leaks in his sinking empire. Can we do it tonight? I asked. No, he replied too quickly. He needed time to prepare counterfeit transfer documents. I have the Man of the Year gala on Saturday in Boston. It's perfect. Bring the paperwork there. We'll sign everything in the VIP suite before the speeches. I'll announce the expansion of the family fund. It will appear legitimate. He wanted witnesses. He wanted applause. He wanted to unveil a $12 million windfall as proof of his brilliance. Okay, I said softly. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for fixing this. That's what fathers do, he answered. I ended the call and looked at Luke. The fear disappeared from my expression. He took it, I said. Luke nodded, already printing the documents we would actually present. They were identical to the standard transfer forms Richard expected. Same typography, same headings. But the fine print didn't authorize a fund transfer. It was an affidavit assigning sole liability. Richard believed he was pulling in a clueless daughter. He had no idea he had invited his executioner to his own celebration. The Man of the Year charity gala was held in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Crystal chandeliers cascaded light over Boston's elite. The room was saturated with generational wealth, political influence, and, at least in my father's case, desperate ambition clawing for survival. I arrived at 7:55 p.m. I wasn't dressed in the neutral, modest outfits Richard preferred. Instead, I wore a structured red dress that cost more than my car. I moved through the crowd, not skirting it but cutting straight across. I spotted Hunter near the bar, laughing too loudly, already several drinks in. He didn't notice me. He was too busy performing, playing Prince of a Kingdom that didn't exist. Richard stood near the front of the ballroom, flanked by two senators. He looked luminous, almost triumphant. It was the glow of a man convinced he had just executed the heist of a lifetime. As he noticed me walking toward him, his smile stayed perfectly in place, yet his eyes tightened with suspicion. He politely excused himself and intercepted me near the steps leading up to the stage. "You're late," he muttered through clenched teeth, maintaining a polished grin for the cameras. "Do you have it?" "I have it," I replied, extending the blue leather presentation folder toward him. He yanked it from my grasp. His greed radiated off him, almost tangible, like heat rising from pavement. "Is everything there?" he demanded. "The transfer authorizations? The power of attorney? It's all included, Dad, exactly as you requested. The full $12 million is placed under the authority of the family trust. You only need to sign as the sole trustee to accept control of the assets." He flipped the folder open. He didn't review the clauses. He didn't examine the definitions. His attention went straight to the signature line. A wiser man might have questioned why the document carried the title Affidavit of Historical Management and Sole Liability. A wiser man would have noticed the dates stretching back 20 years, retroactively tying him to every shell company listed in the appendix. But Richard wasn't wise. He was arrogant. He trusted so completely in his own dominance that he couldn't imagine a scenario in which I posed a threat. From his pocket, he produced a Mont Blanc pen. "You made the right choice, Alyssa," he said, signing his name with a dramatic flourish. He returned the folder to me with a dismissive gesture, already shifting his focus toward the podium. "Find a seat in the back," he instructed. "I have an announcement." He strode up the stairs to the stage. The room fell silent. A spotlight illuminated him. Instead of retreating to the rear, I stepped aside, photographed the signed page, and pressed send. 3 miles away, Luke received the image, attached it to the whistleblower complaint we had finalized days earlier, and uploaded everything to the DOJ's secure portal. Moments later, Richard gripped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he proclaimed with pride, "tonight we unveil a historic expansion of the Mercer Family Foundation, a $12 million investment in the future of the city." He was confessing in real time, before 500 witnesses. He declared ownership of funds I had just connected to 20 years of tax fraud. He believed he was presenting his legacy. In reality, he was reciting his own Miranda rights. My phone vibrated. Received IRS confirmation code 99 Alpha. "It's done." Richard's smile remained fixed when the 60-foot LED screen behind him flickered. The foundation's logo disappeared. replaced by the seal of the Department of Justice stamped in bold red letters. Federal asset seizure in progress. Case 8842. Applause dissolved into stunned silence. Richard looked confused rather than frightened, his mind refusing to process a reality that contradicted his script. That was always his fatal weakness. Not ignorance, but entitlement. He never imagined that someone he deemed insignificant could construct a trap large enough to ensnare him. The ballroom doors flew open. 6 IRS CID agents advanced down the aisle. Richard Mercer, the lead agent, commanded. Step away from the podium. Richard tightened his grip on the microphone. Do you know who I am? We do, the agent replied evenly. You are the sole trustee who signed an affidavit accepting responsibility for 20 years of unreported offshore accounts. He turned sharply toward me. She deceived me, my own daughter. Save it for the grand jury, the agent said. The handcuffs clicked shut. Camera flashes erupted as he was escorted out, his grandeur stripped away, reduced to a man wearing a rented tuxedo. I believe it was finished. I was wrong. The door to the VIP suite slammed, the lock snapping into place. Hunter stood there, flushed and shaking, panic written across his face. You destroyed everything, he spat. It was already destroyed, I answered. The money was never real. He seized a serrated steak knife. This was no longer calculated strategy. It was pure instinct. The moment when the illusion of family shatters and desperation bares its teeth. Luke moved in front of me. Open the door, Hunter. Hunter lunged. Luke caught his wrist, twisted sharply, and the arm cracked. The knife clattered across the marble floor. When agents forced their way inside, my brother was sobbing, not from pain, but from the crushing weight of irrelevance. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, Newport carries the scent of salt and fresh coffee. I sit on the porch of my cottage, mine. I repaired the roof, cleared the ivy, turned it into a home. Richard was denied bail. His assets remain frozen. His empire has been liquidated. Hunter accepted a plea deal. No inheritance awaits him, only work. On the porch, I set the affidavit ablaze. I no longer need it. The IRS and the DOJ already possess what truly matters. That page represented the fear I once carried. Luke sits beside me. The trust transfer is finalized. It's all yours. What will you do with it? I gaze at the ocean. $12 million. Nothing. I reply. Let it grow. I'm still a nurse. Still Alyssa. Money isn't power, it's protection. Family isn't blood. It's the people who stand beside you when the vault swings open.